Good,
Just
good, good.
busy doing a lot of stuff on the house, spring cleaning and yard work and stuff. Also some church commitments this week, but yeah.
Right, right. So you got the big conference today,
Yeah.
right? You got to
My
send me the link for
semi-annual
that.
general conference. Yeah.
Yeah. You got to send me the link for that. Remind me. I'll try to remind you to send me the link for that, so I can check it.
Yeah, there's one that starts at 8:00 after. You can
Perfect
watch
timing.
tonight. Yeah.
Perfect timing. Hey, Tanya, how's it going? All right. So, big week. As always, like America, I feel like there's never a dull moment in America, right? Like we do not have a single, especially when Trump is in president, like there's like never a week where it's like, who is it? There's a comedian that did a thing where he's like, watching the news used to be like a 30-minute job. You turn the TV on, you look at the news for 30 minutes, you get caught up. But now it's like edge of your seat, you're like, oh God, what's gonna happen next? Like just like gripping the edge, like it's like insane. It's like every day you got to see what puppy Trump kicked, and Trump kicked in the
Yes. And the media complain that it's exhausting, but they love this stuff. This is like because the ratings all go up.
They probably like quadruple their net worth on in the weeks that Trump is in office. It's like, yeah, you can. No, there's no social media guy that's really upset about this. Like everybody's like, except for us, we don't seem to be going anywhere. But everybody else seems to be going into the. But yeah, for those of you guys who are out there watching, welcome to the show. And tonight's going to be lively as always because that's the way we like it here in America with President Trump. And if you guys have any questions, yeah, right. If you guys have any questions, shoot them our way. If you have any comments, shoot them our way. If you guys want us to pay extra special attention, you're more than welcome to buy us a cup of coffee using the old super chat function, and we'll immediately pay it.
A root beer for me. Root beer.
Yeah, root beer for Christian. Actually, I don't drink coffee either. The funny thing is, I think I used to. I used to drink coffee when it was like when I was working overnight at the convenience store. It was like to get that extra boost of energy. But I'll tell you what, it was like I put so much milk and sugar and cream and stuff like that in it that it was just like 2,000 calories a cup. So it was terrible. It was terrible for me. So I had to get rid of that. I traded it out for Mountain Dew, which was still horrible for my health, but still better than the way I was drinking my coffee, which tells you something about how bad that was for me. So, you got anything in particular on your radar this week, Christian? Like, what's your top?
Well, I'm always concerned, right, when the media is especially outraged and they have a narrative they want to push.
Right.
And the narrative they're pushing, and this is definitely the concern of the elites, is that these tariffs are catastrophic for everyday Americans.
Yes,
and
of
they
course.
evidence this by the stock market, which everyday Americans do not have a huge interest in.
Right.
Right. That the elites are very interested in, and that Congress people are very interested in. This hits their pocketbook, their net wealth, and their plans. And so, while I don't want to say that the stock market means nothing, it's just an indicator. It's part of a larger economy. But there's definitely I felt like that we just tantamount to sort of inciting riots in this is that the media has really wanted to spin this as negatively as possible when it's just begun, right?
Of course.
A lot of stuff can happen, negotiations can happen, and and there's just a lot of they know the American people, the common man, unfortunately, is not very well informed on tariffs. There haven't been a big tariff push in this country since the 70s. And so they feel like if they can educate it one way, then that will be the prevailing narrative. That's what people will accept. Right.
And the truth is, that's to be fair. And I wish it wasn't like this, but the truth is that is essentially how the American people see things, right? It's like if somebody can really get out in front of the narrative and push the message that they want, then for the most part, people don't challenge it all as much as they should, right? I wish I wish there was more pushback. I wish there was more like, people doing their own fact checking, but it's exhausting, right? It takes a lot of time to like really stay abreast of the issues. And for the most part, like you said, the common man, the common person out there in America doesn't have 6 hours a day to dedicate to like really checking to see if everything is actually as the media claims it. Back in the day, we used to could trust them, right? Like, rewind 30 years and basically everything they said was at least partially true, right? Like at least from an angle. And nowadays it's, if they tell you the world is falling, the sky is falling, then we tend to believe that without even testing it.
Well, like one of the examples, right, is the flip-flopping, which I feel like people really need to know. When the Democratic Party felt like they had the union support, right? As far as like not like teachers unions or government worker unions, but guys making stuff unions.
Right.
They were very pro tariffs, right? There's a very public video going out there of Nancy Pelosi, late 90s, making a very impassioned plea for tariffs to protect American industries and American jobs, and that it was unfair that our goods were being tariffed when we sent them overseas, but that we weren't tariffing stuff here. Like everything that Trump was saying, she's saying. But now that they've done their polling and they see the union members are voting for Trump, right? The common people, working class people feel like Trump, especially socially conservative people, people with faith in God, are following Trump. Now they've abandoned all support. Now tariffs, they're practically William F. Buckley on tariffs, which is rich,
right?
Considering, right? So that's the type of thing that we need to see. Like in general, right? We would like to see low tariffs and fair tariffs, right? But when countries raise tariffs on our products and we do nothing, that's kind of like when I play baseball. I you're up there. There's sort of some unwritten laws in baseball, right? A guy throws a pitch close to your head, you step out, and you're like, okay, maybe,
maybe it's an
we're
accident.
all perfect. Maybe there's an accident.
Right.
He throws another one, especially a fastball, because pitchers have the best control of their fastball. A fastball by your head. Now all of a sudden you're on edge, right? Because that's intentional. Like there were lots of times I hit guys in the head with curveballs, right? Going slow, and those guys weren't sad or up shoulder or something like that. Those guys weren't mad at all because it wasn't a hard pitch. They knew that that curveballs go all over the place. But if I threw a fastball at somebody's head, like they're ready to throw down, right? And so it's sort of like you're supposed to be patient, but you got to be ready to defend yourself. And then as a pitcher, if a batter comes out to you, like don't take the first swing, like you want to kind of calm things down. But if he takes a swing at you, right, your coach is like, don't stand there and be like, yeah, you want to do that again? No, you got to protect yourself. You got to subdue this guy, right? So obviously, we don't want to be. I don't think Trump is being an aggressor here, as the media wants to portray him. He is simply looking at unfair tariffs that other countries have that are not treating the United States as an equal trade partner, and asking that they treat us as an equal trade partner, right? But the media is seeing it as, because of his brusque manner, as that he's bullying. He's being aggressive. He's creating this trade war where none existed before. Well, really, there are guys there swinging at us, and we're just standing back going like, "Hey, you want to try that again?" Rather than doing something proactive.
Right. What really I think upsets me about the entire situation is that everybody thinks that they're an expert already. Right. This is what's bothering me. Right. Because I'm the first person to tell people in all of my debate forums and all of my conversations. I'm like, people are asking me like, hey, do you, what do you think? What are your thoughts on tariffs? And and I've told people like I don't like tariffs, but it's a principled objection. I've said it a million times. And when they ask me if it's going to work or not, I'm like, I've got no idea. I got no clue. I'm not a tariff expert. I'm not a macroeconomics expert. I'm not and what drives me nuts is I'll get on these forums and it's like every single person I talk to is like all of a sudden they're like the Milton Friedman of the world. It's like, and what I'm like, what's going on? Like, where exactly did you learn this magical information that nobody else seems to have? Because nobody's ever tried this before. No one has tried this before. We've tried things that are kind of sort of similar in like hundreds of years ago, like where the market's completely different, where the geopolitical situation completely different. How could you possibly know whether it's going to, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, if that's a situation that the common man needs to be careful of, this is a situation the media can manipulate. When the alternatives are unknowable, essentially what would happen if we didn't have it? We don't really know. I mean, they generally like status quo, but Trump is here to disrupt. And part of the thing is, let's see what happens, and if we need to make adjustments, right? But we are in a position, being the largest economy in the world, people want to sell their goods in our market, that we have strength. We're not coming from this. We're not like Belize, who's all of a sudden trying to act like a big shot. Like, this isn't just posturing. Like, we are the 800-pound gorilla. So what we need is, we need a little patience. Yes, we're both me and you are skeptical of tariffs as a means, but we would like to see other countries lower their tariffs as well. I think that's common sense.
Tanya asks a good question. Do I think that Trump would admit if he was wrong and make adjustments? The first one, no. The second one, yes. So I think he would probably never admit if he was wrong. I think he would change, though. Like, Trump's pretty quick to make adjustments. He never admits fault, right? Like, he's either gonna pivot or he's gonna act like it was somebody else's fault or something. Like, I think that's politics in general, to be fair. But Trump's just a little bit maybe quicker to do it than most. Here's what I counsel everybody, and there's really nothing I could ask for more than this out there, is if you don't know what exactly you're looking for, like what results you're looking for. If you don't know, whether or not something is going to work or not, if you don't know whether or not Trump is actually going to succeed with something, my best possible advice is to come up with a KPI, right? To come up with a result that you would like to see. And bless you, right? Come up with a result that you want to see, and that way you'll know that you're unbiased if and when that result is attainable, right? So what I instead see very often is people who will say things like, this is never going to work, and then by a lot of different metrics, it works, and yet still, like, this is like 2 years down the line, and then they're still claiming it never worked. And I'm like, okay, that's fine, but you never gave us a thing that we could actually attain, right? So, like, my thing with this is, if you have so Trump's claim is that he's going to get other people to drop their tariffs. He's going to get other people to relent to his requests, like whether they're guard your border and keep fentanyl from coming across or something like that, right? Like what have you.
Which are reasonable requests, right? His requests are not crazy sauce.
Right. It's like, would you please keep drugs from coming across your border? That's a reasonable request. Getting people to drop their tariffs I think is a reasonable request if that's the goal. And then, in a couple of months, we can start to see if like, for example, I think Israel already has dropped their tariffs. Now, here's my complaint. My complaint is, if his goal is to get other nations to drop their tariffs, and then Israel does, then we should be dropping ours, or we should immediately reward it in some form. We should immediately be like, oh, great job. You don't have any tariffs anymore, or you only have 3% tariffs, or whatever we were going to do anyway. At least we'd be showing some kind of solidarity. I'm not happy that we haven't done that yet. So I think we should immediately show each nation that we're gonna positively motivate as well as negatively motivate. That's just me, but again, I don't understand entirely what Trump's goal is, and I would ask the same thing of Trump that I would ask of everybody else. I would ask for him to make his goals very, very clear and say, like, look, if this is your goal, then the moment you achieve that goal, then show us that you're happy. Show us that you're appreciative for the fact that somebody else is coming down with you, and if Israel's able to. I think they've released. I think every one of their tariffs, or at least like 95% of them, or something like that.
Right.
Then
what Trump is saying is that Israel has said they're going to drop their levies, their tariffs,
haven't done
right?
it yet.
But again, they have a legislature, they have a parliament that has to work through.
Fair enough.
So once that actually happens, rather than just a verbal, Trump is waiting for that to actually happen. We'll see.
That makes perfect sense.
Right. The media is spitting this that Trump, we have higher tariffs against Israel than against Iran, which sounds terrible. We have sanctions to not do any trade with Iran. Right?
Yeah,
We can't, nobody, no importer. If I'm an importer out there, I can't just like buy goods in Iran and have them shipped here. They have to go from Iran to another place, and then I can get Persian rugs or other things there. But we can't deal directly with Iran, so tariffs are meaningless. But this is part of the thing. The media is looking for any way to take a out of context fact and spin it negatively.
Of course.
Right? And like maybe this is tangential, but I was listening to NPR.
I'm sorry.
But they were talking. It was a local story. It was Durham. Somebody killed in World War II during the Battle of Pearl Harbor. They never found his tag. He'd just been reported missing during the battle. Well, this week they found his dog tag at the bottom of the USS West Virginia as doing this. So they've been able to identify his remains and identify, give some closure to his family. His parents had passed away, but they had long assumed that he had died there, but the Navy couldn't confirm it until this week. So they were talking about it, and he was a man of color. So his assigned job on the ship, a lot like the Cuba Gooding character in Pearl Harbor, if you're familiar, was to be a mess orderly, right, or somebody who worked in the mess. But what they did have, it says, is during combat operations, right, when the mess didn't, is they would have different secondary jobs. Which was based on a real person who fired a machine gun and planes. This person's body was found down at the bottom, which is where they would be taking ammunition and bringing it up to be used. Right, was one of their secondary roles to move ammunition. That fits with where his body was found and why it took so long for divers and other things to find it.
Yeah.
So it's all a good story. But one of the things that they talked about is that they couldn't, NPR just could not resist mentioning was that on the DoD's website, when there was a changeover, there were briefly some African American like Medal of Honor winners or medal winners or something like that, whose web profiles were taken down for a few days and then put back up. Right? Type of website glitches, right? It happens all the time. If anybody's like, my wife has a website all the time. But this is fun as the Trump administration is trying to eliminate Black soldiers' history. And it's like, no, right? We're doing this. Anyway, like, it just sort of hit me like, if there's anything, like the slightest, like, little technical complication, they're trying to spin, especially because African Americans support, men especially, soldiers, military, is swinging back towards the Republican Party and Trump, right? Are very much are becoming red pill. Are not. So anything they can say is, oh, they're trying to, eliminate Black history, and it's just and it's all based on sand. And any editorial would really, they shouldn't report it, but they can't risk putting that out there and just interjecting it into a story where. Did that happen to this person? No, not at all. Like, had no application at all, but they can't resist putting that in. So we just, as common people, have to be aware when that stuff comes up, like, hey, there's not a reason for them to be reporting this or to be trying to cast a slant or a bias against Trump in this. This is just normal operation. If it's negative, it doesn't have to lead to Trump. If it's positive, it doesn't have to lead towards
of course. Yeah, it's like it's petty, right? It's just every little thing, of course. And to be fair, like, I get it. I mean, part of this is just a political game, right? I get it. I get that that's just going to be part of the day-to-day of fighting politics, right? There's always going to be this I wish we could do away with it. I really do. I wish we could And it's definitely both on both sides. Like it's not like the Republicans don't take
Yeah.
their shots to when the Democrats are in office or when there's something that they can show. What was it? I saw one the other day that was like, oh, so yeah, Trump has had this thing on his calendar for like months and months and months to meet with some Saudi Arabian like businessmen or something like that. And then there's this like just recently there was a training exercise mishap over in Lithuania, and some armed servicemen died, and my prayers go out to their families, of course. But now they just like this was like all happened in the last like 2-3 days. They all brought them back, and there's a thing that's like a what do they call it? A dignified transfer from the place of death to back to the States, right? And of course,
Mhm.
typically the president will attend those if they're able to, right?
Yeah.
Trump's had this thing on his calendar for like months, and he's like I've canceled on him before, I can't cancel again. And of course, it's like this giant like catastrophe. It's like president is expected to da 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 da, but snubs the. It's like, oh my god, shut up! Like shut up! That's just the kind of
Yeah.
stuff. Like it's
Well,
just
yeah. His private calls to the family matter more than the
absolutely.
optics. He's just giving up the optics and right. Anyway, sorry. I don't want
Yeah, no,
to.
I mean, yeah, well, right, absolutely. And it's not like it's, right, like has anybody reached out to President Trump to ask him if his intent was to snub anyone? Right, of course not, right? Like, has anybody, has Biden still visited that Gold Star, group of families that from Afghanistan that died under his watch? Of course not. Yeah, right. But it's like it's always got to be this one-way thing with the media, right? Like unless you're Fox News, you're basically never going to run defense for the Republican Party. And that's just one of the games that's played, and it's unfortunate. It truly is unfortunate that happens. I wish, and for those of you guys out there that are listening, if you guys have, I'm looking for a way that we can get past that as a nation, right? Like one of the things that Tanya, who's watching, was she and I were talking. I've lost a little bit of sight of my original goal, which was to try to bring America back together. Because what happens, and I'm not trying to make excuses for myself, but one of the things that takes place is that when somebody like the Republicans get in office, and right now they have a commanding lead, they've got the presidency, the Senate, the House, the judges, they've got everything. And whenever that kind of thing happens, then the tactics that are used by the other side are just so over the top that I feel like I have to run defense, and it's like I feel like really weird when I'm doing it too, because I'm on the one side, I'm not trying to say anything that I don't believe, right? I'm trying to just make it as clear about my position as possible, which is usually somewhere toward the center. But at the same time, I also have to keep people from these ridiculous attacks because I feel like no one else is doing it, right? I feel like for the most part, the media is just like it's like open season on Trump, and there's nobody else who sticks up for the situations that are honestly, not Trump's fault or not his problem or not his, and I'm like, meanwhile, I'm like, okay, like I'll say, like, I'm not for tariffs, but the stuff that they're saying about him with tariffs are ridiculous, right? Like, and so it's like I'm in this weird, awkward position where in order to compensate for the attacks that are just consistently going against Trump, I find myself having to compensate a little bit in the opposite direction, and I hate that it's like that. What's going on? Why do we just
Sorry.
stop Democrat and vote? Yeah, right. Well, I wish we could, Tanya. I wish we could siphon it back down to a one party
No, but what I
nation.
said is one party is worse, right?
It may.
We
I don't know. I don't know. That's a hard one to.
people have to have you want the CCP who they like the calmness of having single party rule in China.
Right.
Look how wonderful this is, and so no dissent can happen, right? And then so you need the opposition party to hold the other party accountable. And this is part of the thing is we know with the media that they're going to hold Trump accountable. Trump's not going to be able to get away with anything shady. Republicans are going to be held accountable for any slight thing. We just wish it also happened when they were in power, that the
Yeah.
media didn't just gloss over
Well,
and ignore everything and carry water completely for everything the left does. What are you
so
going to say?
yeah, to answer your question, Tanya, just so you understand what he's saying, he's not saying that it the in the abstract there's no problem with having one party. The problem is unless you have someone to counterbalance the power of one party, what very quickly happens is like this runaway effect, right? So if nobody is there to challenge the one party, whatever it is, then that one party finds that they can do whatever they want, right? Because if they're always the person in power, right? If you like, imagine if like tomorrow Republicans just fell off the face of the earth and there was only Democrats, right? And there was literally unchecked Democrat rule, then you'd be in a situation where every policy the Democrats want to enact, even the most extreme side of that party, it would just go like boom right through, and there would never be any challenge to it.
This is California. This is California politics.
Right, so Marcy, I don't know if it's Marcy or Marky. Anyway, Marcy, yeah, we absolutely do read the comments. What we can't do is read them all simultaneously. Right now, we're responding to something that Tanya said, so we'll get to yours in just a second. So, to answer your question earlier, I don't know if it's a question or not. It might have just been a statement. I do not think that tariffs are working out so good. I have no clue. Maybe you just missed what we had said earlier. Maybe you just came in toward the end. I honestly have no clue whether or not tariffs are going to work or not. Like what we've been saying from the beginning of the show is actually that there hasn't been a result yet. Really, there hasn't been a. Oh, okay, great. Welcome aboard. There hasn't been a result yet. Like there hasn't really been a tariffs have actually worked or not worked yet. There hasn't been a situation where we can like
all been posturing. It's all been posturing at this point.
So when you say they won't work, Marcy, are you a macroeconomics expert? Because I'm not. Are you?
Now work is an interesting point. So what's the end? The end here. So Trump's ends are to get tariffs to be even for between our trading partners. That whatever they're tariffing our goods in their country, we have the same thing here. So and he would love to lower their tariffs down if they'll lower theirs. That's what he would call is working, is just having an equal playing field, right? Now, if you're thinking that tariffs are going to jumpstart the economy or do something magical to the stock market, that, of course, is not something directly to it. But what is the point? What is your goal when you say you want something to work?
Yeah, right. And that's and moreover, what's Trump's goal? Because people have to remember that the person that's implementing this is Trump. So where I may disagree with the tariffs in theory, Trump's his claimed goals are to get everybody else to drop theirs, right? To get other people to capitulate to his desires, right? Whereas like with Mexico, he wants them to make sure that they guard their border, for example. Now, I don't know if that's going to work long term or not, but for the short term, it seems to be doing what he wishes, right? Now, and thank you so much for that, Tanya. I appreciate you saying that. We definitely try to be intellectually honest on this podcast. We definitely try to like not to just hug one side, right? Now, Christian's a little bit more in favor of the Republican stance than I am, but even so, I find myself through muscle memory kind of liking the Republicans a little bit more than the Democrats, just because historically they've been more conservative. Now, I don't know that that's true anymore. They sort of have both parties.
Generally, I'm with you. Like in free markets, less regulation, but what we're ignoring and what we talked about before you got on here, Marcy, is that the markets aren't really free. They're unequal. Other countries are tariffing us, and we're doing nothing. And so Trump just wants to respond, and this is part of his negotiation. Right, because we are the strongest economy, because we're wealthier, like as you said, it gives us a better negotiation period to get these to get concessions from other countries and have more reasonable barriers to American goods in other countries. And I think that the long-term goal of this is to have manufacturing that can come to the U.S. We can rebuild it. That's better for us. But that when they come here, they can sell those goods internationally without facing huge, insurmountable or unequal barriers. That I think would be the long-term goal. That is something we're not going to see the results of for at least 2 years, maybe.
Yeah, it's going to be a while. Now,
And
let me ask you this, Christian,
okay,
because this is
sure.
to kind of push back a little bit, and Marcy will probably enjoy me pushing back as much as possible. Um, how do you feel like Trump was? Now, Trump definitely campaigned with this tariffs as an idea, right? He definitely was all in for tariffs from day one. But do you think he was as honest as he could have been with the whole like market recovery? Because I think a lot of what Trump did was say, "I'm going to come in, I'm going to fix the economy right away." But then when he got in, and he also said, "I'm going to do tariffs." But then when he got in, it was very much like a, well, you might have to wait a little bit on that market. Like you might have to wait a little bit on the economy now that, we're going to do the tariffs thing first, and that's going to fix the economy. I mean, I think in his mind, he was probably maybe all in solidarity with himself, but I'm not sure that that the amount of urgency that he was going to place on tariffs and the market was able to be accomplished together. And I'm not sure that he communicated that well. What do you think?
All right. So, while we're waiting for her to respond, I will say under Biden and during this inflationary period, there were corporations that were making record amount of profits,
Sure.
margins, things like that. And so, with these tariffs and things like that, the stock market is deflating because, right, we're saying the U.S. maybe we won't consume as much, especially foreign goods if they become much more expensive, Chinese goods. That if corporations are reaping these huge profits because their manufacturing is all overseas, they're going to see a reduction in their profits, right? They're going to need to make some adjustments to that. They're going to have to be used to maybe having lower profits, and everybody's going to need to make adjustments. What we think though is that long term, this is a disruption. It will make our markets better, stronger. That will be ideally we would have 3 to 5% tariffs on everything, and our trade partners would have the same level of tariffs on everything. So we would have a really truly
Right.
Trade partnership where nothing where there's just procedural stuff. But right when we can't sell automotive cars in Europe because they're blocking us, and these are friends, but they can sell their cars here, and they don't want us to do anything. They're clutching their pearls. If how dare we put tariffs on a car manufactured in Germany being sold here in the U.S. when they do the same thing at very high levels if we try to sell something in
Right.
America in Europe.
Right. Yeah, I mean, this is a very complicated situation. I have to admit, and like I said, I've told people a million times, I'm a very much in favor of free trade. So, tariffs, in principle, I just don't like tariffs. But that having been said, now I also have to admit that if my goal is free trade, right, and if I want that free trade to flow in both directions, then I don't know a better different way to accomplish that free trade, because right now Trump's coming up with essentially the only attempt that I have seen right so far. Like, because I mean, Canada had these outrageous tariffs on us the entire time. Mexico did, most of Europe did ever since World War II, and basically the standard operating procedure has been for a president to come in, see that that's the case, and then just not address it, just not do anything, right? And maybe that's worked to a certain extent. Maybe it hasn't. I don't know. But what I can tell you is that somebody needed to do something if we ever wanted to really recover that true free trade concept. Wow, Marcy's going off. She's definitely appreciate the engagement. That's for sure. You can fire off a couple of those. What is it? What you're not in favor? Okay. What I love when people do that. This is one of my favorite. I want you guys to all pay attention to this one right here. This is one of my favorite things to see happen in political discourse. Marcy says, "You're not in favor of free trade if you approve of what's happening right now." I love it when people try to tell me what my positions are. That's one of my favorites, right? Because you can't possibly know. You can't possibly know what all of my stances are, and you can't possibly know whether or not my stances are truly copacetic with what is taking place right now or not. I think actually that in order to get all tariffs down to zero, I think that this could be an avenue toward that. And if that's what happens, then yes, it could be definitely 100%.
You can't negotiate if you're not willing to raise tariffs.
Yeah.
Right?
Now
you can't
that
negotiate tariffs, and you can't negotiate if you're not willing to actually do something. Right? Trump isn't bluffing. He's willing to do this, but if people capitulate, he's willing to quickly accommodate that. We saw that with Canada initially, like he was going to put really high tariffs. If they didn't do it, they said they were going to do what they wanted. He didn't put those tariffs in. Right? So what you don't like is Trump's negotiating manner. And that's because that's how it's being spun to you in the media.
Right. Well, hold on. I don't either.
Okay.
But that's fair. Like, here's the thing. Every single person on earth knew that we weren't going to like Trump's, rhetoric, right? We all knew this. Like, his first term wasn't a surprise, right? Like, we knew that Trump was going to be that guy that just says whatever he wants to say, that calls people names. A lot of the time he's trying to be funny. Some of the time he is, some of the time he isn't. And he's very reciprocal, not just with tariffs, but with the way people treat him, right? So like if somebody says something bad about him, oh my gosh, does he let them have it? It basically destroys their relationship, their personal relationship for the next, 12 years. But that having been said, I think, well, all right, let's move on to
I think Trump deals with other elites that way. He's very brusque with other elites. He's not that way with the common man. But again, yes, I think this has more to do with Trump's manner, but this is a negotiation. And it's why, in general, we would love to have there be no tariffs. But there are tariffs. We can't just put our hand in saying other countries are tariffing us. We need to negotiate that. Let's negotiate from a position of strength, even if and risk being called a jerk. And this is Trump. He's not afraid to be called a jerk or racist or any of these things. Now, it's not our job here. We're to carry water. When Trump makes mistakes or goes too far, we will admit that. But again, it's too soon. We should just try and see if this negotiation works and how bad it will be.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, you got to give, and like I said, so Marcy, one of the things that I think you maybe missed when you came in a little bit late is what I recommend for everybody is if you want to judge whether or not this is actually going to work or not, is to come up with a KPI, come up with a result that you want to see, right? Tell me what you want the stock market to be. Where do you want the Dow Jones to be? Tell me what you want unemployment to look like. Tell me, well, right. So you say it won't, but in order to know that, you have to have a goal that doesn't get hit, right? If it doesn't work, that means that you have to have a point that you want to hit that you miss. So tell me what that point is, and then you'll have a much better way of finding out whether or not it actually worked at the end. When Biden was in office, the stock market improved every single month and hit. That's absolutely 100% incorrect. So maybe go back and
we did see stock market growth by the end of the Biden administration, right? And right. But again, that's just one performance indicator, and the elites love a high performing stock market, and it's an easy thing that the media can point to say things are going well, but it's not all encompassing. It doesn't mean everything. Now, in general, what we need to say is our position on these tariffs are, we need to be realistic about them, but at this point, it's still mainly just negotiation. And we need to, and it is more than just economic policy, right? Economically, we're opposed to tariff. This is also a shot to our allies that we need to reevaluate in every way, the way NATO treats and their expectations from the United States. It's a foreign policy. It's a different foreign policy regime. And this is just a way for him to send that out that is different from Biden. You obviously don't agree with how he's doing that and would rather have had the Biden administration status quo going on, but Trump is here to disrupt. Right when we see the results of this down the line, we're going to comment and say, okay, this didn't work or this did work. But so far, right, because we're the largest economy and we have a position of strength, he's guessing that he can use that strength to negotiate better trade deals, removing barriers to our goods going to other markets so that our companies aren't afraid to manufacture in the U.S. Right? If you make it good here and you can't sell it in Germany, but if you make it in Vietnam, you can sell it in Germany without a tariff. What are you going to do? You're going to make it in Vietnam, right? Well,
Right.
if we can remove that, then we have a better chance.
Absolutely. So let's see. Eagle Eye Man says America's already done. Nothing Trump can do to save it, anyways. I don't think that's true. At least I'd like to.
We're not.
I'd
We're
like to
not
believe.
Britain. That's Great Britain you're talking about.
Yeah, I don't believe that that's good. Now, as far as American democracy, America was never intended to be a democracy. It's actually moved toward democracy every step of the way as I've been alive. Actually, it used to be a constitutional republic and has moved more toward a democratic republic, and then has moved toward more like a socialist democracy, and has moved toward like it keeps on getting
Good
further and further.
government. Yeah. Yeah. This is a chance, right? With Elon Musk was trying to reduce the size of government. Obviously, people who are for the government as the answer to all of our problems are not in favor of that. But that's the disruptor. We need to reevaluate and then see if we cut too much, maybe add some more people back.
Right, right, absolutely. And you know what? I guys, I can't say this enough. I love Doge. I love Doge. I cannot tell you how much I love Doge. I think it's just one of the best things that our government has ever done. I know that's going to be popular with about half of the people watching, and unpopular with half the people watching. But understand, where it comes from. Like even if it were incorrectly implemented, right? Just like I would think that it's just a no-brainer that we would want to every now and then make sure that we're implementing, government as efficiently as possible. That we don't have a bunch of waste,
Yeah.
that we don't have a bunch of corruption. I would think that we would want to do that all the time, every day. And you know what I was hoping would happen is after Elon did it nationally, that all the states would pick up their own, like, Elon Musk, and do it, locally. I haven't seen much of that going on. A little bit here and there, but
Well, states can't go into debt as much as the U.S. government can. So
yeah,
they because of that have to run a little bit tighter ship. But
right,
while the U.S. government, right, has been leaky as far as money, they've been very cavalier about money. And, again, Musk has taken a lot of personal hits. Right now, the spin is very anti-Musk for just trying to put a vision. Now, it's a vision. It's a partisan vision, right? But it is trying to clear up obvious fraud, obvious waste.
oh, I just lost Christian for a minute. I don't know what happened. So yeah, let's see what Marcy says. When your friend's mom, who's on Social Security, loses some of that and she's homeless and starving, drop her on my doorstep. Now, how exactly do you expect that she would lose her Social Security? Because nobody has claimed that they would remove any Social Security. All right. Well, looks like I'm on my own for the moment. But yeah, so I'm not sure. This is a very common talking point from the left, that the Republicans are going to tear apart Social Security and Medicaid and Medicare and food stamps and every other entitlement that has ever existed. I'm not sure why that is the talking point. I don't believe that is the goal of the Republican Party, which ironically is a bad thing to me, because I feel like that's what the Republican Party should be doing. Ironically, I think that for the most part, those programs should be run locally or at the state level, if they're run at all. I don't think that they should be run at the national level. So let's see. I mean, this has got nothing to do with feelings. Or maybe you're talking to Jay. Let's see. The guy who got fired and chased the senator around the Capitol, and you told him, yeah. I mean, yeah. A lot of the stuff that's going on right now is just like outrageous. Like senators being chased around, like Tesla lots being lit on fire, like people going around vandalizing. Here's one that drives me crazy: is people are going around vandalizing Teslas and then getting caught because the Teslas have these outrageous like security programs, like with cameras in 360 degrees or something like that. And then when they're caught, and whoever catches them is like, oh yeah, that's my next door neighbor, I'll just go over and figure out why that guy would do that. Then the people are like, oh no, and then they're like terribly apologetic. And what really is incredible to me is a lot of these Tesla owners are actually like letting the people off. They're like, it's no big deal. I understand you're frustrated. Just cover my expenses and no big deal. But I don't know that I would have that. I almost added. Oh, you got back.
Yep. Sorry about that.
Welcome back. Welcome back. All right. So yeah, I don't know how your phone died. Or you plugged in actively now?
Yeah. We're fine.
All right. Perfect. So yeah, we were talking about people are getting caught vandalizing Teslas, and then but even after they're getting caught, like the Republicans are like letting them off. Like they're like, hey, look, I understand you're frustrated. As long as you cover my expenses. That to me is extremely gracious. Like
hella chill.
I know, right? Like I do not think I would get that kind of like I think it would be like, oh, you Jan Sixer, you would turn into like this big thing. But oh, thank you so much, Tanya. Thank you. You are amazing. Oh yeah, let's take a look at it. I think he said something. It was a while back. Let's see. Let me see if I can find it. All right. Since Trump has put his tariff, I saw a big increase in price. When I make a deal with my suppliers, items start increasing $20 to $30 up. Not sure if these are caused by. Yeah, that's a difficult question. Maybe tell me what industry you're in, because that may have a lot to do with it. There's a lot of industries that will opportunistically take advantage of any reason to raise a price. That's something that happens very often, like gas.
$20 to $30 on $1 million order. $20 to $30 on a very small order. Like, what are we talking about here?
Right,
and,
like on the car.
And is it stuff from China? Is this stuff from Europe? Is this stuff from South America or from Canada?
Yeah, no, Marcy, we do not deny corporate greed at all. As a matter of fact, I don't know if you cycle back up to my statement. I in fact actually I explicitly mentioned that corporate greed exists all the time, regardless of who's president. Right. So like it's one of those things where corporate greed is going to be there. As a matter of fact, capitalism is a great system because it assumes that corporate greed is present. As a matter of fact, like out of all the systems in the world, capitalism is the only one that expects corporate greed to be present. So it's kind of intriguing that, let's see. All right. So the food and beverage.
Corporate fraud, but we expect corporations to act in their economic self-interest.
Absolutely.
Right. As long as it's done honestly without fraud, then that's fine.
So for food, so he says great black mass says he's in the food and beverage industries as well as healthcare. So that could be a huge spectrum as far as like what you're ordering. You could be ordering medicines that are like thousands of dollars, in which case a $30 price hike isn't that big of a deal. You could also be,
ordering bananas and oranges,
something to understand about, and this is, I want to be clear because I am not saying this next statement to let Trump off the hook, because I'm not. Trump is definitely responsible for a lot of the market already, but most of the market moves that you're going to see right now, and even for the next year, are going to be delayed. They're going to be from Biden and sometimes even from Trump's term one, right? Like that's just how the market is. It floats, behind a couple of years. So there could be a lot of price hikes that happen today now that are still actually remnants of inflation from Biden and Trump's first term.
Well, food items definitely are responsive to normal crop conditions. How good the crop was this year. Was there any type of challenging environmental thing? So if you're buying food, I know the price of beef is high everywhere. There are concerns about that. Fruits and vegetables, fresh fruits and vegetables, right, have a fluctuation all of their own. But is I guess my question for great black math is, all right, so you're seeing the $20-$30 higher on these orders. Is that affecting your ability to do business? Are you ready to shut down your business because it no longer makes sense and move on and, I don't know, start selling insurance or something? Like what type of impact are you seeing as this? Have your margins gone completely away? And can you adjust? Can you pass this cost on to and charge higher prices yourself?
Yeah. So he said, let's see. says from one of his suppliers is from China. They increased their cost by 6%. Yeah, that could very well be the trade war. Could be China going back and forth, and China may have done that preemptively too. They may have been that may have been in advance of the anticipation of Trump's games, right, between the two. One thing that I always wondered, I mean, this you may not have power to make the purchases for your company. You may, I don't know. But one thing I wonder is, are there alternatives that are domestic that you can tap already? Because a lot of the things that we buy from China, from Canada, from Mexico, from wherever already have American alternatives that, whereas China might raise their prices $30, the American alternative may only be $15 more expensive or something like that. I don't know, something to consider. But yeah, these are like I said, these are very, very complicated markets. Every single one of these could have a million different variables affecting it. Some of it might be the tariff. Who knows? But one thing that I again would stress, while I do not like tariffs, the concept of the tariff is not supposed to work right away. It's supposed to be short-term pain for long-term gain, right? So it's supposed to eventually increase production domestically. And when you've increased production domestically, then you can hike the tariffs back, and then the overall supply is much greater, in which case the overall cost of everything worldwide will be lower because the supply is the competition's higher.
Now, black math, great black math. You seemed a little bit unsure of whether this was related to tariffs. So if tariffs went away, if China on Monday calls up and says we're lowering our tariffs and Trump lowers the tariffs, do you expect you're going to see a price drop in what you're paying for these goods, or do you think they'll stay at the same level?
See. All right. Anyway, no, Marcy, here's the thing. I love that Marcy was able to hop in, even if she's got to take off. If she's still around, that's even better. I would never want someone to feel like they don't have the privilege of trolling. That's one of our patented First Amendment rights. So and we love it. Actually, we love that kind of engagement. And that's how you test ideas in politics, right? So you got to have somebody that's there ready to poo-poo the ideas the moment they come up, right? That's what we have the left for.
We are common men, Marcy. We are common men.
That's it. That's all we got. But yeah, now as far as let's see, lobbying is the worst thing to ever happen in this country. So there's a lot of different conversations going on here at the same time. I'm trying to keep them parsed. I do agree that I would like to get money out of politics if we can, at least in some fashion. I'm not sure that the what was it, the lawsuit that allowed companies to be treated like people for the sake of private speech was overall a good one. I'm not sure. I have to. That's something I'm kind of on the fence on.
I want to talk about Jay saying that the lobbying should be illegal. I don't think that's the case, but it should be transparent. It should not be secret, right? And any lobbying should be declared, right? This is what I met with this thing, right, to advocate for this position. It's the secret backroom deals that invite corruption. As long as people know, right, you have a position, you want to talk to your government, your elected officials, you want to impress that upon them, you want to use your constitutional right to petition the government, your constitutional right of free speech. We just don't want it to lead to corruption and be backroom deal. Now, obviously, money is speech, right? And as long as people are using that money legally and not corruptly, that can also, I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah, you don't? I'm not sure if I do or not. I'm on the edge.
Well, all right, so we have a limit on campaign donations, right? I guess it's the other soft money thing that maybe that's where the scrutiny is, right, where we feel like it can be, right. And I could see some changes to that.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think the limits that you can donate on is it a yearly basis, the $2,000, $2,500 or something amount that you can donate. I think that's fine. You know, your speech, if you want to put some money behind your speech, I don't think that's inappropriate. When we get into, as long as it's openly done and we can see there's no, it's sort of like the Constitution made secret arrest illegal because the British used to do that all the time.
Right.
And so we don't let the government do that. We just need transparency in government. And that's one of the things that Doge and Trump have really tried to do, is tried to, whatever they're doing, make it so other people can look in, even if they're going to cherry pick sob stories or losers or jump on any type of mistake or overcuts or anything like that. They want to be held accountable. They want to make it so everyone can see what's going on. And well, we're not going to have perfect government if we have transparent government and an opposition party holding them accountable. That's the best, I think, alternative.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm still on the fence as far as I know that there's a campaign max, but of course there's also there's no max if you donate to or the max is much higher if you donate to the party instead of the person, and then they can then siphon money into the person, which is kind of odd. Big questions makes me question why you have the one and not the other. And then there's all these other weird little loopholes. Definitely some of the stuff we could do away with easily, like senators and such ending up with these high level positions in these companies that they don't really have any experience in immediately after they get out of the Senate or right beforehand, right? Like people end up, in Northrop Grumman after being in the a Senate Arms Committee or something like that. It's like, wait, why?
Yeah.
Why did you end up?
When I'm speaking generally about my philosophy, there can always be exceptions to the rule, right? Where it's like, hey, we want to have this lobbying environment that's good and honest, and where people can support politicians that vote with them or see things in a way that they agree with. But when when somebody abuses that too much, then you say, okay, we've got to pull this back because you're taking this too far. You're abusing this, right? It's kind of like what we're asking with birthright citizenship. In general, we're all for it. It's very common sense. But if people start abusing it and start gaming the system, then you got to be like, okay, we need to, we have a nice simple thing for you. Maybe we adjust. And the same thing. So if lobbying, like he's talking about in the pharmaceutical industry, is getting to a point where it's problematic, maybe right when it comes to that, you're like, okay, we wanted to do things right, but you're abusing this. Now we're going to start putting some extra sort of scrutiny or limits on you in the pharma industry. So outliers or situational things, I think those adjustments can happen when they're being abused. When we call out abuse, rather than in general just saying all lobbyists should be thrown in jail. I can't agree with that.
Right. So Great Black Mass says he can't pass the cost to his customer because it's a 1-year contract. Can't get a 1-year contract from suppliers because they're afraid the market will go up. Yeah, go figure, right? So one of the interesting things to note about that is that in the general populace of America, there's all this fear that all of the prices will immediately be borne by the consumer. And so we can see here, obviously, for at least one reason, they won't be, right? Because there's a lot of people that already have their contract sealed. Now, there's a lot of other reasons too. I just kind of wanted to point out that this is a reason that the price won't immediately go right to the consumer. There are also times where a lot of these tariffs are structured as part of the trade deal as, to be borne by, for example, the importer or the exporter, or by, split between the two. And sometimes there's all sorts of different ways to structure a trade deal. These trade deals can go in a million different ways. One of the things I often wonder about is, again, how everyone seems like they're such an expert on it when there are far too many variables to often even track. I don't know. But what I would say, though, I know Christian's got to sign off here. He's got to get going for his church thing in a second. But before we head out, just the big thing I want to say to everybody is thank you so much for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. And if you guys want to know if something is about to work or not, right? Like tariffs. If you want to know if tariffs are going to work, set yourself some of your own goals. Yeah, thank you so much, Great Black Math. Thank you so much for your contributions to today's conversation. Set your own goals and then that way you can track whether or not they've hit that these ideas have hit with your own personal requirements instead of being swayed by the media in 2 years. Because I guarantee you, in 2 years, it's going to be like bing bang boom. It's going to have hit like 5 or 6 different important key points, and then the left media is still going to say that Trump failed,
Yeah.
whether he has or not, and
Yeah.
and people on the left are going to believe it, and people on the right aren't. So I just recommend everybody set your own goals. That way, you know if it has worked for you, and then you'll know whether or not you're happy.
I think tariffs, if there is a benefit which he has, it's a long-term benefit. If there's pain, it's immediate, short-term. And
Yeah,
so
right.
that invites political spin and manipulation. We just want our followers out there just to be aware that they're being spun by the media. Try to keep an open mind. Listen to, if you're interested in tariffs, we do have some other long-form videos where we discuss this some more. Put some of your comments there. We will respond to them.
Definitely.
We can keep this conversation going.
Yep. We'll catch you next time on Common Mansplaining, guys.